the boss came up with the idea of how he's going to get out. The slave driver comes around and checks them every night about 9:30. So his idea is pick the locks of him and the king. When he comes around at 9:30, jump him. So two of them could easily overpower the one guy, especially because the boss is a big strapping guy, the king is a big strapping guy, and both of them know about fighting. Then put on the guy's clothes, put him in chains, and then just walk home with the slaves and the slave driver and etc. And then all of a sudden everything's back to normal. Well, he was having problems getting a piece of metal to be a lockpick. And so, as I said, metal was kind of rare and expensive back then. But he saw a guy who was trying to buy him with a steel pin to hold his clothes together. Because often what they would do is they would weave big long sheets of cloth and then drape it about themselves and then fasten it together with a pin. In this case, the guy had 3 pins. So the boss was like, okay, I'll just snag one of them and I can use that and make it into a lockpick. Now, the way locks work is that you have a hasp, which is kind of a U-shaped thing like this. And it has a little bend. And there's a catch inside. So all of this is shielded by metal except for the hasp because, whatever is being locked goes through there. And you take the key, and the key turns this, which allows the hasp to open. Now, the way the key works is you have a hole, little narrow keyhole, and the little narrow keyhole, stick the key in, and inside of the lock, you have 2 teeth, like this. And those 2 teeth have to be grabbed by the key to turn it. But they have a blocker in there, so that if you have just like a solid flat thing, the blocker will hit, and you can't turn the lock. So what happens is the key and the lock have to fit together. Well, what a pick does is it goes in, and you take the little pick, and you turn this hook a little bit, and then this hook a little bit, and you work the 2 hooks individually. And this is how locks have worked for the past 2,000 years. A little bit longer. The Egyptians kind of invented it. But essentially what it is you have to stick something in the correct distance and turn the lock. And you can turn the 2 pins, or 3 pins, or 10 pins, or however many pins there are. And it varies by the number of locks. And there's a whole skill to lockpicking. There's all sorts of videos. There's all sorts of tools about it. I could do a little bit. I'm not a professional. I could do a little bit. I've noodled around. I've never actually properly studied. That's on my list of skills to learn one of these days. Is how to pick locks, because it strikes me as fun and useful. It's sort of a visual puzzle. It's one of those things that when you practice at it, you can like kind of see it in your mind's eye. I don't know if you've noticed this, that sometimes when you hear sounds or you feel things, it's like you're actually seeing it, but you're seeing it with your hands or you're seeing it with your ears. Or in the case of picking a lock, you would be seeing it with your fingers, where you can just sort of see the pick go in and you can feel the tumblers, but you just sort of see them. It really feels more like seeing than feeling. I know this sounds weird, but if you're to think about it sometime, that when you touch something, you close your eyes and touch something, that you get this sort of visual sense of what it is like. It just builds up the model. But so the boss's idea was, hey, pick the lock. So he goes at it. He goes to pick the lock. But the guy's already visited, which means wait until tomorrow. But tomorrow they'll be sold. And tomorrow the whole plan goes up in smoke. So it's like, okay, it's now or never, tonight or never. And so the guy runs away, the guy leaves. And so the boss is like, okay, run outside and grab him. But because it's dark and because there aren't regular lights, there aren't street lights or anything like that, and it's kind of moonless, he jumps the wrong guy. And the two of them fight, and then the guards show up. And so the two of them are now being frog marched off to prison or jail. So we'll see if this is an improvement or not. He is currently in London. He's seen a bunch of his friends. No sign of Clarence yet. If Clarence were around, this whole thing would be solved. Hopefully Clarence is a judge or he recognizes Clarence, or Clarence is somehow in attendance. But there aren't many people who would help him when he looks like a slave. So we'll see how this goes.